This is the 2024 Mazda CX-90 PHEV. In this video, we're going to check out all the features, take it for a drive, and then we're going to put the off-road mode to the test. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. This is the 2024 Mazda CX-90 PHEV. It's a family three-row crossover with an electric twist. Because this CX-90, you can drive up to 26 miles without using a drop of petrol. For families that need to drive short distances on the weekdays, but then want to get away on the weekend, this vehicle is a very practical and economical option. But the great thing about this being a PHEV is that if you don't want to plug it in every single night, you can drive it just like a normal hybrid. That's convenience. Even though full battery electrics are getting most of the attention, it's actually PHEVs that are way more practical for a majority of American buyers. If you watch this show regularly, you know that I drove a top trim CX-90 with the inline six just a couple months ago. To put it lightly, I didn't like it. The suspension was bouncy, the transmission was clunky, it was really expensive, and there are better options for that amount of money. But most of all, I was seriously triggered by that white fabric interior. Go watch that video if you want to see me hate on the CX-90 for a good 20-odd minutes. But with this one, we have some pluses. First off, this is using the more economical PHEV powertrain, but most important, it has the black leather interior, which looks so much better. This specific trim is the Premium Plus with optional rhodium white paint. Price as you see it here, $58,920 US, including destination. So is this one any better? Let's take a look. Under the hood is a hybrid powertrain combining a 2.5-liter inline four-cylinder with a 68 kilowatt electric motor. Together, the total system output is 323 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Thanks to a 17.8 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, this CX-90 can drive up to 26 miles in all-electric mode. Though in my testing, I actually did better. I got up to 31 miles just driving around town normally with my entire family of four. Pretty good. The transmission is an 8-speed automatic, and power goes to all four wheels with a clutch-based system with wheel braking to shift power side to side. Several drive modes are included, like Sport, EV, and my favorite, Off-Road, which we will be testing a little bit later here at our Peninsula Proving Grounds. EPA rates economy at 56 mpge. Running petrol only, it scores 25 mpgs. Using a level 2 charger, you can charge the battery up to 80% in about 2 hours. Although I think most home users will probably just plug it into a standard AC socket for overnight charging. The tires here are Falken Zykes in a 275/45 R21 fitment. That means that these are, of course, rolling on 21-inch alloy wheels. Now, obviously, all terrains would make our off-road testing a little bit more fair, but this is what the vehicle comes with, so this is what we're going to test. When equipped, the CX-90 can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Open the trunk and you get 14.9 cubic feet behind the third row, 40 behind the second, and 74.2 with all rows folded flat. In the back here, we actually get 2 AC sockets. They support up to 120 volts and 1,500 watts. You also get a 12 volt. That's nice. With all the seats folded flat, the question is, can we sleep in it? I would say kind of. There is enough room, but it's not completely flat, and there's large gaps around the captain's chairs. In the second row, I do get a captain's chair at this trim level. A little fold-down ratchet-style armrest, which is nice. I get a screen here for privacy. And I also get 3 stages of heat plus my own aircon, vents, and USB-C sockets, which is all good. This beverage holder is kind of flimsy, but I guess it works. I can, of course, adjust with sliders and tilt as well, although to the detriment of whoever's in the third row. I do get a light up here, although it does blind me when I turn it on. Overall, not bad. Oh boy. So technically I can fit back here. It's not comfortable, however, but I do get my own USB-C socket, a couple of cup holders. I even get a vent down here, which is a nice touch. But as far as comfort, it's pretty much non-existent. Right, let me out. Here we go. Back in the CX-90. Are you done yet? Okay. Already we're off to a better start here because, yes, this is a black leather interior and it looks so much nicer than the white interior of the last CX-90 I tested just a few months ago. Overall, this is actually really nice. The colors on the interior here really work for me. I even don't mind this kind of patterned metal. At least they didn't go with, you know, like a piano black like they're so apt to do. Steering wheel is wrapped in leather, feels great. Mazda's always pretty good with steering wheels, and they have all their little controls and small buttons right here, so it's a very streamlined look. I get paddle shifters back here to control the 8-speed automatic transmission. Pretty good start. Now, this is, of course, a plug-in electric hybrid, which means we have a lot of stuff related to the EV side of the vehicle. I can switch different drive modes. We have sport, normal, EV only, and then we also have off-road. Now, the EV only mode is only available if you actually have enough charge in the battery. I find that you have to have probably over 5% if it'll let you do that at all. And then in EV mode, you are running strictly on electricity. Theoretically, if you have, say, a 5 to 10 mile commute, you should be able to go to and back, no problem, every day without using a drop of gas. I think you really need to be around 40 miles before it becomes truly useful. I had the same complaint with the Grand Cherokee 4xe because it also didn't have a long enough of a range, but here nor there, this is what it has. In the menu, we have some settings to work with how you want to charge, preconditioning the battery, that kind of stuff. That does bring me to the infotainment here, which I'm not going to rattle on about it. I really don't like this infotainment. I think it's pretty awful for 2023, even worse for 2024. And if it's around in 2025, I fear there might be riots. There's multiple things that aren't good about it. First off, it requires a lot of clicking. There's no visual cues as to what you're looking at. Everything looks exactly the same. EV settings are just as weighted as safety settings as are sound settings. With other makers' infotainment systems, you at least get some color coding so your eyes know what to go to. This, it's all considered exactly the same. Also, this is a touch screen, but you'll note it doesn't actually work as a touch screen, not until you go to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I really don't like it when things change only because of a decision, not because of a requirement. You know, one thing, Mazda says that it's better for us to keep our eyes on the road and to use the jog dial to command things. But when you're doing 50 clicks, that does not make it safer. That just means you're clicking a lot and you're trying to see what is getting clicked on instead of just going, boom, I touched it because I know where it is, and there's an easy to access color code. Basically, I think Mazda needs to go back to the drawing board with this unit. The one saving grace it has, as you will note, is that it actually does support Apple CarPlay wirelessly, which I am running right now. The same screen does function as a surround view camera. It supports tracking lines both going in reverse as well as forward. We will see how well this works as a trail cam a little bit later. In the main gauge cluster, at this trim level, we get a digital display. The digital display does change depending on your drive mode. So if you're in off-road mode, you get that whole manly kind of gears and dirt look. And then if you're sport mode, it goes red. It's a little too Miami for me, but you know, whatever. In the display, you do get some customization. If you switch into adaptive cruise, you get a different screen optimized for that. And if you want more information, there's a toggle here for info where you will change the right-hand dial to show a number of custom settings. This trim level does support wireless charging, although my iPhone 15 Pro Max barely fits. It says it's charging. And then I also get a 12 volt up here. I get a couple cup holders here. And in here I get a very shallow bin. That is shockingly shallow. I do get heated and cooled seats. These are very comfortable. I get lots of controls. I even get a heated steering wheel, which is nice. Above that, we have what appears to be a lever for dealing with the aircon temperature, but it's actually multiple little push down things. My personal preference is that if you are going to have something that you can grab and lift up and down, that it should be a toggle up and down. There's no reason to have a toggle, but then make it just be a single throw down. Again, personal preference. I'm sure that won't bug anybody else. Okay, safety. Yes, this does include adaptive cruise control. We have collision mitigation. We have rear cross traffic alerts. We have front traffic alerts, and we get blind spot warning at this trim level. The sound is Bose, it's pretty good, and we also have a really nice panorama sunroof. So now that's all said, let's take this out for a drive on the road, and then we're going to bring it back to our proving grounds and see how it does on our easy off-road course. And yeah, I made some changes to the easy off-road course since we took the Palisade on it, so I think this vehicle is going to be up for a challenge. Before we head out, let's determine what drive mode we want to do. And I think because this is a PHEV, I'm going to start out in the EV only mode. So I'm going to switch out to that. I currently show 25 miles remaining on this charge because I'm not quite all the way to full on the battery, but that's okay. I'm going to reset my trip and we'll see exactly how close we get to that 25 miles that they claim of all electric range. It's been interesting watching Mazda slowly move their vehicles up market. They first started with their whole like Kodo redesign, and then they started adding more leather, more premium accessories, digital gauge clusters, and then they came out with the CX-90, which is of course based on a inline six with rear wheel drive. They went all in on the premium segment. However, there are a few things that are just not quite premium enough here. This infotainment, as I've harped on much, it's just substandard. Also, just the feel of like the door handles and things like that, they just feel lighter and cheaper than what you get in a premium brand, specifically than what you get like in a BMW or a Mercedes. Now, how does this feel in all EV mode? And are we gonna jump out of EV mode at all? Nope, that's all EV. And we're cruising along at 50. Okay. So unlike the Jeep vehicles, which kind of are more of a suggestion when you put them in EV mode, this one is definitely sticking in EV mode, which I like. That is a good thing, because when you're in EV mode, you want to be all in on EV mode. At least it's my personal opinion. Now, if you don't have a full charge and you know that you want to be in EV mode later, you can always run the engine in charge mode, and that'll use the alternator to help recharge the batteries, and it'll just be in kind of a primary gas mode. If you're trying to be environmentally sensitive, that's not the way to do it. It's always much less impact on the environment to go off the grid, even if the grid is not the cleanest of energy sources. Come on, full EV power, I'm wide open. Oh, okay. So if I click that throttle button down into wide open throttle, it will kick in the gas motor. However, if I go full throttle, oh wait, it basically exited EV mode altogether. That's interesting. So let's try this again. I'm in EV mode, full throttle, but I'm not clicking that last button. Yeah, so if I go full throttle, but I don't click the little button that's at the end of the throw, then it does not engage that gas engine. And I think that's actually okay, because this way I have two stages of wide open, all electric, and then if I really need all the power I can get for like an emergency pass, then I can click the button and it gives me that maximum horsepower and torque. So I'm just driving normal. I am not doing any like hyper mile driving here, and we're just gonna see how many miles we can get with this EV only system. It's estimating that I have 22 miles remaining and that I've driven 1.8 miles. And yeah, we fudged a little bit because I went into gas mode just for a brief moment there. But I think for the overall loop, that's not going to affect things that much. Seating position is pretty good. We've got good visibility all around on the vehicle. Seat is pretty comfortable. I got to give Mazda that. I kind of like these. There's also an adjustable lumbar control, which is nice. The steering wheel feels great. I like it when manufacturers really focus on what your fingers touch. Here, I'm touching the steering wheel, very nice. The gear shifter, that also is wrapped in leather and metal. Everything does feel pretty premium here. I like that. The heads-up display, it's not my favorite. I think it's a little, design-wise, it's a whole bunch of random stuff. It doesn't seem very cohesive, but I can always turn it off. There's a button somewhere. Oh yeah, it's in this infotainment system. I gotta scroll to settings. I gotta scroll to in-vehicle displays. I gotta go to active driving display. And then from here I can I turn it off? Active, yeah, I can turn it off. Great. For most people, a plug-in electric hybrid makes the most sense because you can drive all electric every day, but then also use the same vehicle for extended road trips. It's just such an easy vehicle to drive every day. However, a lot of people just don't kind of understand that it's even really an option, or the fact that you can drive the vehicle without using a drop of gas. For people who only need to do tons of short trips throughout the week, a PHEV is brilliant. That said, I think 26 miles is on the short side. I would have liked to see a slightly larger battery. Get me up to 35, get me up to 40. I think that that is a much more usable space. Ideally for me, because I kind of live a little bit more remotely, I don't live downtown, I think a 50 would be almost ideal. Now, of course, when I put the brakes on, it does add charge back into the vehicle, so that's a good thing. That is also why, you get better mileage around town with these type of vehicles, because it helps recharge the system whenever you put the brakes on. If you're just cruising on the highway, all you're fighting against is wind, and you get no recharge from that. So far, driving in EV-only mode is actually not bad. I mean, the vehicle does not feel fast. It definitely does not. But I feel good knowing that I'm not using any gas. That's great. Makes lots of little electric noises. You can definitely hear them. Actually, that is one thing interesting about this vehicle, is it makes so many noises that I can hear audibly. It definitely has more racket under the hood, even in EV modes, than other premium vehicles. So again, I kind of have trouble thinking of this as a premium. I think of it more as a really nice mainstream vehicle. Mazda does include the full suite of active safety stuff in this trim level. We have collision mitigation, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alerts, front traffic alerts, and adaptive cruise control. I hit it here, it changes my whole display, which I think is actually kind of cool. And away we go, off to the races. Now, where most manufacturers are starting to provide lane centering, the Mazda here, yeah, no, we're just gonna blaze over that lane. It does lane notifications, not as helpful for long distance trips. So, if you really wanted something with lane centering, skip this vehicle altogether. It just doesn't have it. Although it's funny to note that even something as basic as a Toyota Corolla comes standard with lane centering. Mazda, again, not really offering the premium stuff. If you do choose this, you get a vehicle that I think actually looks pretty good, although the proportions are a bit off for me. It has a nice panorama sunroof, it's comfortable, second row captain's chairs. The third row, it's tight, but usually those are only used in a pinch anyway. So I think overall, Mazda actually has a really good offering here. Yeah, I know, you're shocked that I said that after my last CX-90 review. But hey, you know what? Powertrains matter. Price matters, options matter. Also, I'm not getting that clunking that I got on that inline-six transmission all the time. This transmission has been pretty much smooth overall. So it's now reporting I have 11 miles remaining on my electric batteries. And see, so we started at 26, so we're down 15 miles, and I've traveled 12 miles. So not quite in spec there, but it's pretty close. Also, I've been doing anything but hypermiling here. I have been driving this vehicle all week, and earlier I did get 31 miles with the electric charge. So obviously it greatly reflects how you're driving, but I think it's right in there, and I have no complaints about the actual range that we're getting considering what is claimed. Okay, let's go ahead and switch this over to sport mode so we can feel what full power looks like on it. Full throttle. Whoa! Ooh, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, if you want to run with the big boys, you definitely put this into sport mode and go full power. What? That's cool. Okay, I'm starting to like this vehicle a lot better than I did that inline 6 version. I love the dual personality of it, the fact that it drives very sporty when you're in sport mode, yet if you're in EV mode, it runs conservatively and doesn't use any fuel. That is awesome. So we've driven it on the highway. Now it's time to test out the off-road chops of this CX-90 because yes, it has a trail mode, and we're going to put that to the test here at our Peninsula Proving Grounds. We've added side-to-side ditches, so we're going to see how this does in a more challenging course. When I was putting in those ditches, I actually went a little too far at first and made it a little too hard for my Ranger Tremor to get through. So I backed it up just a little bit, and I have not driven through it since. So we're going to see how well this vehicle can handle our easy course. And is our easy course easy enough? Because I mean, it's supposed to test things, it's not supposed to strand them. So we'll see. I'm going to do a quick test here and just see how it's distributing power by doing a full throttle launch on a loose surface. So let's see what it does. Let's start with Sport, which should give us maximum power to the back. Now, traction control, let's turn that off so that doesn't get in the way. It says TCS off. I'm in drive. I'm gonna preload just a little bit and then floor it. 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, yeah, that definitely feels rear wheel drive. So now let's try off-road, see how that changes things. I'm gonna preload just a little bit and then go. Okay, and that feels a little bit more balanced, not quite so much in the rear. And then finally, let's see what EV mode does. I'm gonna make sure not to throttle beyond the first stage of wide open. I'm not gonna go past that little button. So we're gonna go into EV mode. There's no preloading because it's electric. So I'm just gonna basically mash the throttle. TCS has stayed off this whole time, which is nice. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, go. Not enough power to really feel anything. I'd say overall, yeah, definitely a rear bias system. I mean, technically it is, but you never know how they're going to distribute power on these things. Interesting that it's way more rear bias in sport than it is in off-road, which is good. That's what you want. Now let's hit the easy course. So here we are out at our Peninsula Proving Grounds, and this is the easy course. Now, I did take the Hyundai Palisade on the same course and it did fine. However, the log and rock section, that's the same, but this entry level, we've changed it a lot since the Palisade. I've added a side-to-side tilt section that I think is really gonna put this system to the test. Now, switching into off-road mode, I get a new set of gauges that look kind of tough, and the engine kicks on because, of course, you need maximum power. So this first section is a slimy climb. Now, these tires are not all terrains, not even close. These are all season Falcon Zikes. It'll be interesting to see how this does. Okay, we got our camera view on, put it into drive. That's basically all we can do. Let's see how it does. So I am a little concerned about the long wheelbase on this thing. We might have some issues with clearance because of that. Also, front and rear overhangs are a little on the long side. Oh yeah, that's the benefit of a rear bias system because you have all the power going to the back. When you are going up a hill, all the weight shifts to the back as well. So you have the benefit of all the power being where you need it. And we got up just fine. Okay, well now let's try the tilty section. By the way, I'm trying to come up with a name for this forest. I think Fun Forest would be kind of a good one. We'll run through this and then post your comments below what you think we should call this segment. Now this vehicle has about 8 inches of ground clearance. We are going to lift a wheel here in the back, I expect. I'm going to crank over here. How are we doing with power? Okay. Oh, I can hear that wheel braking, shifting power around. That's nice. No display though to tell me what it's doing. I just kind of have to feel it, but it's definitely doing something in the back there. Even though there are a couple lines I could take here, I could either go wide or I could go shallow. The wider line is actually the harder of the two because it's really going to dip these wheels around. Now we could, of course, carry momentum through here, but the whole point is to test the all-wheel drive system. So what we're going to do here is basically get over to the section where we're going to teeter-totter, if it'll let us. Ooh, yeah, that power's shifting around. We're spinning this wheel and that wheel, but I just leave the throttle in and it slowly moves us forward. And now we're going to teeter-totter over. Okay. Got us through. That's great. Now do we have enough clearance for the logs? Let's see. Now we have a little bump as we exit, and that'll basically measure whether or not we'll be able to get over the logs. Just a little rubbing. I think we'll be okay. Let's give it a try. So what we have here is a collection of logs that I've sunk into sand with a few boulders scattered around. Now the biggest issue here is really going to be ground clearance, approach, breakover, departure angles. Will it grind? Now the Palisade got through here. Can the Mazda? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm going to turn the camera back on, making sure that it's, still in off-road mode. Note, I still have 5 miles on my electric side. That's neat. Okay, and I'm going to use the front camera to try to position my wheels. Now, the problem I'm having with this camera system, and let me get a shot of it right here. What we can see here on the camera, it's a little difficult because it's such a wide angle lens on the front. It's kind of obscuring what I'm going to be driving over. Also, unlike the more modern Toyota system, it doesn't paint under the vehicle, so it's hard to get context of what's going on. So according to the lines I have here, I should be able to make it over the logs right here. Just looking at the lines. Listen for any grinding. I'm just slowly easing over. Now the crawl ratio on this isn't great, but you know, given the target market, that's not too surprising. Whoop. I'm just trying to crawl over because I don't want to thunk down and hit something hard. Don't want to break front fascia off or anything like that. Getting through so far. Okay, I think we're going to get over it. One more log and we are clear. It got over it without any scraping. So that's good. You're definitely not going to be driving over anything bigger than that with this. And for our final challenge, we're going to exit this really tight corner. Try not to hit the tree. There's also some holes in the sand here. You know, this camera system, it just doesn't help. It's so small and so distorted on the edges. I just don't really find it that useful. So I'm going to ignore it. We don't rub. Ooh, we're inches from that tree. Got it. Ooh, drug the underside though on the sand. Now we go. Okay, so the CX-90 PHEV got through the course with no issues. The trail mode is actually really effective. It does a good job of adding that wheel braking and shifting that power pretty seamlessly. I would like more information about what the system is doing, but on trails like this, it'll be just fine. And frankly, trails like this are as hard as anybody will likely be tackling in a vehicle like this. If you're looking for a 3-row family crossover that has some deluxe accommodations, it's really not bad. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you. Hope you enjoy them. I didn't think this would get through, but it did.